Paddle Portage Podcast. Today we have updates from the roads, the waterways, the rivers and lakes, and routes that we and many of you have traveled this summer.
You've been getting out there quite a bit, LB. I know we've crossed paths in various corners of the globe, including our area we call home here, close to Lake Superior and Grand Marais, but also out in the woods and all around, for that matter. So you've been getting into the boundary waters quite a bit.
Well, it's never as much as I would like it to be, and never as long as I would like it to be. But especially after the wilderness was closed, and the first trip I had planned, a week-long trip into the wilderness, couldn't happen. Really reminded me, in its absence, how essential it is to get out. Though I was able to reschedule that trip coming up in September, I had to just find little nooks and crannies to go. So ended up doing a quick weekend trip out of a familiar entry point, the ever-popular Poplar Liz entry point. Often we go in, you and I, Joe, through swamp. And I've actually only ever gone in through swamp. In all these years, I've never once put a paddle into Liz. So it was actually kind of fun to go through Liz and make the voyage through Caribou and Horseshoe and out to Gaskin, which I realized I hadn't been on since you and I were last there, maybe 5, 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous, perfect summer day. Of course, skinny dip. Immediately finding a gorgeous campsite. Happened to be just sunning on some rocks when I looked over, and actually my friend Josie, who's been working on my septic system install at my place, was paddling just across the water around an island with a fishing pole and his fiancee Emily, and I could tell that they were ever so intentionally looking the other direction the entire time they were paddling by. So a little shout out to those guys. It was a fun trip because I knew they were going in Meads, and we ended up sort of seeing them multiple times out on the water, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's so, I had a really great reminder, the forecast of how untrustworthy the forecast is. I packed real quick and saw a little bit of maybe some less than a quarter inch of rain in the forecast, and Saturday, instead of moving camp, just went on a long 5-6 hour day paddle down Winchell and around up to Omega, and then on Omega and back through Henson. But just at the end of Winchell, the occasional sprinkle turned into a downpour that did not quit till after we got back to camp. And by the time I got back, I was thoroughly soaked through my rain gear. And it was just a good reminder that even though I was like, it's going to be beautiful, I don't need too many clothes. I needed those clothes.
No stocking cap to put on? No
stocking cap. I had, a couple of hoodies that I could double up, synthetic hoodies. And I made it, and it was fun. I have to say, I took Ryan Rogers' book in with me.
Where the Green Light Shines? Absolutely.
And, just in the rain of the rest of that Saturday night, just read out loud with my trip partner, just excerpts about Bob O'Hara and the legacy of the beginning of canoeing from a European standpoint in North America. And it was, a great read. Just really appreciate having that book along on the trip.
Roger's going to be in Grand Marais on, I believe, September 11th and 12th, 2026, doing some readings and talking about that book. If you're in the Cook County area, make sure to pop into one of Roger's events, or both.
Absolutely. I will say that the book started a little slow for me, and I kind of was like, oh, man, I was really excited for this book, and I'm just, is this going to be disappointing? But I stuck with it, and boy, I really got swept up in it, in the stories. Such a good storyteller, Ryan Rogers, and knows how to handle some nuance, I'd say, with humor and and some seriousness. So that was a big highlight, reading that book while being out there and just being in the magical, ever-changing landscape of that part of the Boundary Waters is really sweet. One other trip, I gotta say, just the day trips, they're so valuable just to change, just to disconnect.
I live by them, LB, in the summer.
Well, you do, and I appreciate your commitment to that, and not being nearly the angler that you are. I've learned that I have to find different destinations that entice me, and this summer I've been out to the Palisades on Clearwater like a couple of times for evening picnics. Took some folks out there just the other night who had never been. We took a couple of canoes and some instruments and a picnic and just got into the best conversation, and I played a song I recently wrote that is connected to the wildfires, and after I strung that last chord and we all sat as the sun dropped below the ridge in silence, I just cried a little bit and felt the comfort of friends and the comfort of that place and just seeing it all from above. And of course, paddling out under the waxing moonlight.
Right. I mean, that's one of the great things about a day trip is that you get to experience all these different facets and locations, is that you're not sort of boxed in by the permit itself, and a bit of a luxury by living in this place, but also something I hear from people who book a week's stay at a place up to Gunflint or near Ely that are, akin to the day trips. Like, there's nothing wrong with just taking day trips. You don't have to get in there 7, 8, 9 portages, set up camp, and then grind it out for a week. You can have an awesome experience doing day trips. To each their own, LB.
Absolutely. I will say that it has now become regular when I go with folks who live here. One of the most grounding things into the gratitude of the ability to do those trips is we almost always say out loud, and you do this too, people wait all year to be able to do what we're doing right now. And then they have to go back home to a different life and may sometimes wait a whole nother year or 6 months. And I never want to stop being grateful for the access we have here. Never want to take it for granted.
Right, absolutely. And speaking of access and some of the lodges, let's hear from some sponsors.
Claire from Sawbill here. If you're a fan of the Boundary Waters, and you must be if you're listening to this podcast, then you've likely been following along with the 2026 fire season and Boundary Waters closure saga. Here at Sawbill Canoe Outfitters, we're located on Entry Point 38, Sawbill Lake, which was thankfully very far from all the active fires this year. Unfortunately, we were still affected by the wilderness closure in July. But since the entry points in our area have reopened, we've pretty much gotten back to business as usual. The weather is good, there's no smoke in the air, and the blueberries are plentiful. Being a small business owner is never boring, but weathering a shutdown in the midst of our short season was pretty brutal. On the bright side, so many of you reached out to us with words of encouragement, offers of help, orders from our online store, and many other various forms of support. And you guys, we could really feel the love. Sawbill has been operating for 70 years now with my family at the helm that whole time, and we feel so fortunate to have cultivated such an amazing community of family and friends over the decades. So from myself and the Sawbill crew, a heartfelt thank you to the paddling community. We are thrilled to be open and operating as usual again, and we so look forward to seeing you in person on your next trip through Sawbill.
And this episode of the Paddle Portage Podcast is sponsored by Borderland Lodge, located on Gunflint Lake, up the Gunflint Trail. They are a full year-round restaurant, lodge, cabins right on Gunflint Lake. You can access some of the most beautiful parts of the Boundary Waters right from the shoreline, right from the dock there at Borderland. Steph is really rocking it this summer, and it's been one to remember for many reasons across the entire Boundary Waters, and particularly for Steph and her team at Borderland. They're a great supporter of ours. We really appreciate networking, communicating with their team up there, and Steph in particular. Check them out, borderlandlodge.com. You can find them on social media. They've been posting some beautiful videos right from Gunflint Lake, some moose, sunsets on the lake, just all the stuff that is what it's about up here. Check them out, borderlandlodge.com. really appreciate their support on the podcast.
Freddie, you talk all about your day trips and your fishing trips and this essential access to the wilderness, but you planned a pretty intentional trip of which you prepared for months and months ago with our old pal Eric Dickus. We rendezvoused on the shores of Lake Superior where you had just caught a lake trout, and we fired up the grill in preparation for what was to come.
Omaha Eric Dickus and I traveled out to Isle Royale National Park on Lake Superior. Dickus' first visit to the island, and largely a fishing trip. As you mentioned, LB, we got in some casts on the shoreline of Lake Superior before we left just to get sort of acclimated. Dickus can stare out at the big waters and instead of our sort of usual routine of run up the gunflint and get some walleye or whatever it is we do when Dickus is around, typically some version of that. Just to spend time at the big lake was the idea. Happened to catch some lake trout from shore, which was quite phenomenal and a great way to start that trip. When we took the ferry out, the Voyager 2 to get to Isle Royale from Grand Portage, we made it into Wendigo, Washington Harbor there and stayed at a couple different campsites. Those tents, those kind of lean-to tent type structures, wooden.
The shelters.
LB, we ended up staying even in the same one you and I stayed at when we were there, probably 7-8 years ago now it's been, and sometime like that, a few years back for sure. And we, literally the same one. And
which I also stayed in that same one on my most recent backpacking trip to Isle Royale. That shelter's been reliable for us.
Yeah, and it's great. It's right up there against the creek, and
you can recognize the graffiti on the inside. I know there's not supposed to be any graffiti, but I love staring at all the messages of all the people, and it helps you remember where you've been.
Yeah, I did see LB was here. LB loves BWCA. LB PMP for life.
That's a different LB for sure. Not me.
No, I didn't see any graffiti from you in there. But yes, I know what you mean about the same stuff and had some memories in there. But we only stayed there one night, and then we moved out to one of the shelters at Beaver Island, which is right nearby there. And caught some lake trout, caught either a big rainbow or steelhead. I'm not sure exactly where it was in its sort of transformation of life as it becomes something, maybe mid-transition or whatever, but it was a beautiful rainbow, fought so hard right off the island there. And yeah, I had a monster trout on, but, we had a trout for dinner, and Dickus and I are preparing this meal. He's chopping up some vegetables from my garden, some tomatoes he brought from Omaha, and I went down to get the fish, which we had tucked into the shade after coming off the water under the shade of some tree near shore. And as I get down there was something else was curious about our meal, LB.
Joe went to go pick up that trout, and there's on the dock over there, nice little seagull hanging out. I was like, this is a cool bird hanging out, just chilling. We're recording. Joe goes to get the trout, and the gull had actually ate half of the trout. We got half a fillet now.
Well, we got a full fillet.
Full fillet, but half the fish is gone. Seagull ate it. The island giveth, and the island taketh, just like that.
Omaha Eric Dickus.
Words of profound wisdom about Isle Royale. And you had, I don't know if you mentioned, but you had your own canoe there. You were fully exploring, and the experience of being on the island is great because you take the ferry out. You had your amazing experiences, but a lot of other people were too.
Absolutely, LB. In fact, Dickus and I met a couple other people. I mean, we met many people. This mother and her young son that were on the island at the same time. Dickus bought her a cup of coffee one morning in the place, just camaraderie building amongst people. The kid was telling us about some of his favorite animals and stuff from the island. A group of 4 from Chicago that were back, and Dick has met some people that had been every year for 50 years. This was like year 50. And they had some shirts made and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, backpacking trips and just that type of camaraderie. But there were 2 other paddlers that were in a canoe. We saw their canoe on the way out. And these guys, Kurt and Jake, they live in Salt Lake City and Orlando. They're from out east, but now they're like post-college and into adulthood, so to say, like in their mid-30s or whatever. And so they reconvened to do this canoe trip, like good pals. And it was amazing to hear their story, because on the way back, we, weren't just these strangers with the 2 canoes on top of the Voyager 2 taking it out there. We're like, hey, you're the other canoe paddler people. How was your experience on the other side of the island at Rock Harbor, Blake Point, and these extreme sort of areas that we haven't paddled yet, LB? And they shared all their experience with us. They talked about the epic crossing at Blake Point that they did and how they even got out there, the origins of their trip, which started from a backpacking trip they did in Wyoming about 6 years ago.
Started to do.
They were like career backpackers. That's sort of how they got around. And they were driving up to the trailhead near the headwaters of the Green River, and they saw a canoe rental. They've got these big lakes, emerald water on the right side. They're going to the trailhead. Canoe rentals? What the heck? And they actually pulled a U-turn on their trip and completely abandoned their idea to do a backpacking trip and rented a canoe and did a float trip for like 5 days instead of backpacking. Completely transformed their connection to wilderness. Just said this perspective of being on the water, traveling like that. You can still get out. You're still getting exercise. You can hike around at night or in between lakes and so forth. Like, they are now paddlers is how they would identify their main form of recreation. And they share that whole story on the video version of the podcast that we have on the Paddle Portage YouTube channel. But I wanted to share a clip that Jake summed up about Isle Royale, and most specifically about, we all go out on this big boat together. Nobody knows anybody for the most part. It's 6:30, 7 in the morning. There's a lot of unknown anxiety. Dickus was feeling it. His first time. I'm seeing him just sort of like soaking it all in. What should I do? Should I try to help these guys load the canoe? Should I stay out of the way? Nobody's really sure about what role they're playing. And then on the way back, we're all connecting again. Strangers, but now we're not really strangers anymore, it seems like, as Jake shares.
It kind of dawned on us, really, right between that section towards the end of Cumberland Point and Wendigo, where the culture and the vibe of the island is everybody going off, doing their own thing, and then reconnecting, whether it be on a ferry, a seaplane, at the lodge, and telling their story.
Telling your story. My stories, your stories, Kurt and Jake, and Erin. We all know Erin.
Erin Walker.
I have only just heard that Erin Walker has a grizzly bear story.
Frickin' epic story, LB. You gotta hear this thing.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so we were on Dumont River on a big expedition in Northwest Territories in Nunavut, and we're out there for 26 days in total. And midway through the trip, we had our first backcountry encounter with a grizzly bear. And so up there's barren land grizzlies, and we were in the middle of, there was a big rapid. It was about a couple miles, mile or two of consistent whitewater that we had yet to scout, and we were planning on spending our whole morning scouting it, getting a look at it, picking a good route, because once we were in it, we couldn't get out. There was some big kind of hills on either side, so okay. So we came through one small section of whitewater that we had been able to scout to get to the exit to do the whole thing, and we're in the canoe, paddling. And as we get to the eddy, that was our exit, our kind of last exit before heading into this thing, we spotted a grizzly on shore, right in the eddy. So we had a couple seconds to decide if we run the rapid without seeing it, or if we chance it and get in the eddy with the grizzly bear. So we said, we'll eddy out, holler at him, maybe we'll spook him away. It was a smallish grizzly, but still bigger than a black bear. So we eddied out and it was on shore, hollered, and it kind of turned around, looked at us, and it just came right for us. Like a charge, it just sprinted right over. No, with black bears and stuff, they don't necessarily want to encounter, so they'll kind of give you a charge and a huff and, give you a little warning that they're a predator, and this guy wasn't interested in that. He wanted to come see us and get as close as he could, so he charged in, and I pulled out my bear spray. I keep it right in my life jacket, and uncapped it and just kind of had it ready. It was getting pretty close. Didn't want to use it because John was in the stern of the canoe between me and the grizzly, but I had it if we needed it. But as I pulled off the safety cap, I dropped it, of course, into the water, so no more safety cap. And the deck was on the canoe, so I couldn't just toss it in the canoe. And we decided it was charging, and it charged. It got in the water, swimming neck deep. And we just decided, you know what, we got to go. So we then went to get into the rapid. One of my first strokes, I realized I had the bear spray with my finger on the trigger, let off a little warning shot, which spooked both of us. Thank goodness somehow it drifted past, didn't get either of us. It spooked us, the bear didn't care. Yeah. And especially because we had to then go into a rapid. So luckily it could have been worse. Wow. So then I just tucked it into my life jacket, but still capless, but it was either that or tossed it out of the canoe. There was nowhere else to put it. And then we just put our heads down and paddled. The last I looked back, I saw it swimming. It swam, came into the rapids. It followed us in. At a certain point, it obviously eddied out, and it didn't come all the way down with us, the whole couple kilometers. But it came in the water, neck deep, swam after us. Luckily, we were set up for whitewater, which also means that we had both GoPros accessible and mounted. So we're recording on both of those. We've got some awesome footage of it. So it'll be in the video. It's incredible. Wow. Yeah, and then we had to run this rapid completely blind. We got lucky. It was, some big waves and things, but it was manageable. We got through that. Saved us a morning of scouting, I guess. Yeah. This thing we thought was going to be all morning, and then, maybe 5 minutes, we were done. Wow. And then we carried on. We went 37 kilometers that day, about 20 miles and a muskox herd between us and the bear. Yeah. We decided we went as far as we could and called it a night. But yeah, so that was our first grizzly encounter out there, and it went as warned, I guess, as advertised.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Freddie, this is as real as it gets. It's always a risk in grizzly bear country, but you just never really think it's going to happen. And to have that happen between two sets of rapids, and you're only eddy out to scout such a long stretch, and to have to make all those game time decisions, I don't even know what to say.
I went to the University of Montana, so I've heard a lot of grizzly bear stories. My buddy's an outfitter out there and stuff, but I've never heard one that has water involved in it in this capacity, where the bear gets in the water and swims after you.
That's, yeah. I mean, because it's like your one barrier of protection, and this grizzly did not give up.
It was crazy. Erin was in town recently and showed me a sneak preview, the rough, raw footage of some of the videos she's talking about that they got on the GoPros. And when this thing drops on the Lost Lakes YouTube channel, it's going to be just so next level, LB. And that's just one part of this huge trip, too. So this experience on the DuBont that John and Erin had in the summer of 26, this nearly month-long journey of theirs, is full of story, so rich with story. I'm very excited for it to come out. Their story is going to be unbelievable.
Like all their stories, and the magnificent way that they tell them, that John produces them, I'm sure it will not disappoint. And also what I think will not disappoint is the new Paddle Portage podcast series that Erin has boldly initiated on this platform to launch after meeting Kate from bending branches at Canoecopia last year, Erin launched a scheme.
Yeah, a new sub-series of the Paddle Portage Podcast called Women in Paddling with Erin Walker. And it's going to be coming out later this year and more so on the regular in 2027. So Erin's stockpiling some interviews at this time, this fall and start of winter, and they're going to come rolling out on this podcast. So you won't have to subscribe or find it anywhere. They'll just come here on the main thread that you're listening to right now. And it's largely, as Erin's going to share with us, it's her idea, her and Kate.
Yeah, I came up in that conversation with Kate, and pretty much we were just sharing our experiences paddling and growing up. And I had said that I was really lucky because I grew up where my mom was a big influence, and she was always out paddling on adventures, and she would often be out with this group of women who did all this type of stuff. And so for me, it was just a no-brainer. Like, I didn't realize that wasn't the norm. And when talking with Kate, she was saying that wasn't her experience. Like, she was like one of the few girls kind of in it. And she said she's got a young daughter. And she said she would love a world where her daughter gets to grow up with, like I did, where it's just normal. It's not something that you have to kind of fight your way into or feel like you earn your spot in. It's, yeah, women just do this. And so that kind of combination of our two environments, and then thinking about what we'd like for just young girls coming after us. And so that's where we decided, let's do it. Let's create a platform, find a space to create some just visibility for women doing cool stuff.
You know, we were talking the other day, Freddie, about our mutual appreciation for Erin. And one of the things that always blows me away about Erin is not only does she have the capacity to do these trips, her and John, like on the Dumont, facing a grizzly bear, and that's a whole skill set of ruggedness and mastery. She's also masterful at connecting with people, us included. And her combination of just skillfulness across the board as a human in the world is a rare thing. And I personally consider it an honor whenever I get to sit down with Erin and catch up, talk about life and paddling. And she's giving that to other amazing women paddlers, which is a gift. Let's hear a little bit of it.
What was it like? I'm always curious because I'm childless by choice, but my parents took us camping so much, and I just have so much appreciation. Like, I'm so grateful for that because I just grew up camping and in the outdoors, and now I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful for them because that must have. So what was it like having just girls and bringing your kids out? What ages did you get them out? Yeah. Was it a lot of fun, a lot of work?
Yeah, all those things when they're little.
That would be a lot of work in itself.
Yeah, but we did do a backpacking trip with them. It was overnight, I think 2 nights at Manitou State Park, and they did a great job. They were just like they just became like little wild animals out there. And like, I remember packing out with them. It was raining, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna get cold and they're gonna get cranky. But they were just like, all fours, like climbing up those trails and had their little packs on, and they were doing a great job. I think Lindy was probably 7. No, maybe she was 6, and Annie was probably around 8. Okay, for a backpacking trip. That's pretty good. I think we were tent camping at that point, so they weren't quite in. We weren't in each our individual hammocks at that point. But I do remember one of my favorite camping trips I'll go to again is we were on Duncan, and we were camping with another family, and there was kind of across the lake there was a problematic bear on Duncan several years ago between Duncan and Rose, and this bear would just kind of go across the campsites and just kind of check out what people had for dinner that night. And one of the groups that we weren't with, but they kind of were a young a pair of young couples were staying at a campsite, and the bear kind of like scared them out of their campsite, and they came to our campsite kind of across the lake a little bit, and so we sort of had to like redistribute sleeping situations. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty exciting.
It was fun. You could like see the bear going after their spaghetti or whatever they had.
So that's part of the series, the upcoming series. Erin's recording some interviews, as we said, and that's with Kaylin Dix. She's a Grand Marais resident, works in healthcare here in Cook County, and moved here largely to be near the Boundary Waters. It goes on more canoe trips overnight in the BWCA than you and I combined, LB, on an annual basis, and has a deep passion for paddling that she's sharing with her 2 daughters. So that's just one of the upcoming interviews in Erin's series, Women in Paddling with Erin Walker, which we are honored to share here on the Paddle Portage Podcast.
I just keep thinking about the ferry boat, Royal, and ever since we started sharing stories from this place, especially in the beginning, it was always like there's 3 phases to the trip. There's all the planning and preparation, it's the trip itself, and then after that, it's every time you share the story. And that part never really ends, because these stories are always with us and a part of us, and it's just as much an honor now as it was in the very early days.
It's like Jake said, we may go our independent ways for a while, but we all come back to share our stories, and that's what the platform is here at Paddle Portage. And we're going to send you out with a familiar voice that you probably recognize, another Canadian, Ian Tamblyn, but make sure you stick around past Ian's song today for another familiar voice to longtime listeners of this podcast who we haven't heard from in a while.
I like to sing when I paddle canoe, feeling, not thinking if the strokes are true. We're gonna get through to the other side. Out in the night, the waves beat the shore. You can hear them pounding, you can hear them roar. Oh, roll me, rock me in my dreams. You can roll me, rock me in my dreams. So I like to sing, I love to dance. I play the fool if I got the chance. All around the campfire light, all around campfire light, all round, all round, all round the campfire light.
Joseph, it's Ed. I don't know how I'm contacting you. Is this in your brain? Or some technology that I'm unfamiliar with? I don't know, but your friend, the Lord Buxley has asked me to contact you because you are far away from them, and they must tell you that they are available tomorrow morning before 10 a.m. Do you hear me? Before 10 a.m., not after. It's before tomorrow. Oh, I hope you get this, because I'm lost. I'm lost in a black abyss of outer space just to tell you. Oh, what will my mother say?